I hope I find you well, and we are going to learn on the role of the Company Secretary. The Company Secretary is an important person in an organization. He plays a pivotal role in the success or failure of an organization. So we need to understand that in terms of Section 198, subsection 1, each and every company in Zimbabwe shall have at least one secretary who is ordinarily resident in the country. So each and every company must or shall have at least one secretary who is ordinarily resident here in Zimbabwe. So it is of paramount importance that we realize that this role is the most important role in an organization, and someone who is qualified or someone who is able to carry out the duties of the company secretary, he has to be appointed. So when we are looking at the qualifications of the company secretary, we need to visit section 198, subsection 4. So on section 198, subsection 4, we have the qualifications of the company secretary. So we need to realize qualified chartered secretaries are qualified chartered secretaries, qualified chartered accountants, registered legal practitioners. Also, we are looking at registered public accountants. They are also qualified to be appointed as company secretaries. So those are the qualifications that are required in terms of section 198, subsection 4. Now I want to look at the three key areas covered by the company secretary. The three key areas that are covered by the company secretary. So the company secretary covers the following three key areas. 1, shareholders. 2, board of directors. 3, the company itself. So we need to realize that in regard to the shareholders, the company secretary is the primary point of contact. The company secretary is the primary point of contact, which means that all communications between the company and the shareholders goes through the company secretary, or the company secretary is the one who facilitates all such communications. Communications such as notices of meetings, general meetings, be it an annual general meeting, extraordinary general meeting, or any other meeting of the shareholders. So you are the one who drafts the notice and you send the notices to all the shareholders as company secretary. Then also, the company secretary is responsible for drafting of minutes of meetings, and distributing those minutes to the shareholders. So it is vital that we understand that such an important duty is performed by the company secretary. Also, in regard to shareholders, the company secretary is the one who is supposed to establish and maintain a register of the members of the company. Company secretary establishes and maintains a register of members. Then also we realize that sometimes the company declares dividends. When dividends are declared, it is your responsibility, or it is the responsibility of the company secretary to then come up with the dividend announcements. It is the responsibility of the company secretary to draft a dividend announcement that needs to be sent to all the shareholders of the company who are eligible to receive the dividend. If there are any queries in regard to how the company is being run, such communication also goes via the company secretary. Queries raised by shareholders, they are supposed to approach the company secretary. Why? Because it is the responsibility of the company secretary to perform such an important duty. It is the responsibility of the company secretary. In regard to the board of directors, in regard to the BOD, board of directors, what is the responsibility of the company secretary? So we need to realize that the company secretary is an advisor to the board of directors. The company secretary is an advisor to the board of directors, both collectively and also individually. The company secretary is an advisor to the BOD. Then also, it is the responsibility of the company secretary to organize board meetings. It is the responsibility of the company secretary to organize board meetings and also to draft minutes of such meetings. The company secretary is also responsible for induction and training of all new board members. Induction and the training of all new board members, organizing refresher courses and such other activities to ensure that our directors are kept abreast of the changes which are happening in the business world. That is the responsibility of the company secretary. The company secretary is also responsible for ensuring that the BOD is complying with codes of best practice as well as rules of the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange. So those are the responsibilities of the company secretary to the directors. Now I want to look at the responsibility of the company secretary towards the company, the role of the company secretary towards the company. So we need to realize that the company secretary also plays a vital role in ensuring that the company complies with the rules and regulations. The company secretary plays a pivotal role when it comes to ensuring that the company complies with the rules and regulations. So the company secretary plays an important role in regard to compliance issues, complying with the Companies and Other Business Entities Act, such that the company must lodge annual returns each and every year as is stipulated in section 165, ensuring that the register of directors is updated time and again if there is a change in directorship, ensuring that annual general meetings, extraordinary general meetings are convened as is stipulated in section 166 and 167 and section 168, as well as section 166 when it comes to statutory meetings. So those are the responsibilities of the company secretary in regard to compliance with the Companies and Other Business Entities Act, Chapter 24.31, Then also in regard to the continual obligations of the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange as company secretary, you have to play an important role in ensuring that the company is not found on the wrong side of the law. Also, remittances or returns to Zimra, it is the responsibility of the company secretary to ensure that the company is complying with rules and regulations in regard to tax issues. It is your responsibility as company secretary to monitor whether the human resource department is complying with all the labor laws. That is your responsibility as company secretary towards the company. Ensuring that the company is complying with the Zimbabwe Corporate Governance Code, also that is an important role played by the company secretary. So these are the three key areas that the company secretary needs to cover. 1, to the shareholders, 2, to the directors, then 3, to the company itself. So you can also make use of section 198 subsection 3. It clearly stipulates the functions of the company secretary. Section 198 subsection 3 is important as well to help us gain enough knowledge in regard to the functions played by the company secretary. So the company secretary also has what we call ostensible authority. He can enter into contracts on behalf of the company, and any contract entered into by the company secretary on behalf of the company is bound by such acts of the company secretary. So it is important for us to take note of the ostensible authority of the company secretary. He can enter into contracts of a managerial nature with express authority, and the company is bound. You can enter into contracts of an administrative nature on behalf of the company, and still the company will be bound by the acts of the company secretary. You can also enter into trading contracts without express authority, and still at the end of the day, the company is bound by the acts of the company secretary. So it is vital that we understand that the company secretary has such powers to bind the company when it comes to contracts. So you need to remember the case of Panorama versus Fidelis Fabrics Finishing. The company secretary hired a motor vehicle, but on the pretext that he was hiring for the company, he signed the documents, company secretary Fidelis Fabrics Finishing. But at the end of the day, it was realized that the motor vehicle was never ever used for the company's business. So in such a scenario, the company is bound, but the company has the prerogative to actually sue their own company secretary on the basis that he has entered into a contract without seeking authority from those in power. So it is important for us to understand ostensible authority. If we look at section 198 subsection 7, then it becomes easier for us to understand how the company secretary shall cease to hold office. How the company secretary shall cease to hold office. So that is section 198 subsection 7. You need to look at that particular section. It is vital for our understanding of this particular section. Then also we need to understand that when it comes to the company secretary's role, he needs to make use of electronic communication to ensure that all communication will be fast, as well as it will be cheaper for the organization, unlike using the traditional methods of communicating via the postal services. It takes time, and at the end of the day, it won't serve purpose. So that is in regard to the company secretary's role. He or she must make use of electronic communication. So basically, if you go through section 198, you'll be able to understand the important role played by the company secretary. You'll be able also to identify the disqualifications for appointment or qualifications for appointment of the company secretary. So specifically, subsection 5 of section 198 stipulates the disqualifications for appointment of one as company secretary. So I hope you benefit from this particular discussion, be in a position to ask questions if there are any challenges. But otherwise, section 198 is of paramount importance in us trying to understand the important role performed by the company secretary.